Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another First Impressions video. In today's First Impressions video, we are taking a look at this Kimber Custom TLE RL2. As always, if you guys are looking for a way to support everything that I do here on the channel, one of the number one ways you can do that right now is by hitting that very first link in the description that will bring you to the Firearm Freedom merchandise store. If you want to rep the shirt that I was wearing in the B-roll of this video, that shirt is available in the link along with a bunch of others that I am really proud of. And I seriously appreciate you guys repping the brand. If you want to make sure that YouTube is not censoring you out of my content, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, comment down below. Those interactions should help make sure that these videos continue to stay in your subscription feed. Oh man, this is going to be... This is going to be a little bit of an interesting video. The very first Kimber on the Firearm Freedom YouTube channel. I'm going to start off with this little saying that many of you guys may have heard from your parents. It's not a good one, and that is, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And that's really that's really where I'm going to start off the Kimber Custom TLE RL2 video. I've been in this industry for quite a long time. I've seen a lot when it comes to Kimber, and quite frankly, not a lot of it is good when it comes to my first-hand experience with these guns. Not what I saw on a forum, not what I heard from a buddy, but what I have seen in person from either my buddies buying these Kimber pistols or just customers buying them and bringing them back in with a little bit of frustration. If you were to ask me a few weeks ago if I ever would have considered buying a Kimber pistol, I would have told you no. I would never recommend buying a Kimber pistol, nor would I myself ever buy a Kimber pistol. And then came the TLE RL2. So this gun we had on order from Kimber at the gun shop that I work at for 2 years. We had this thing on order, and it finally came in. And I don't know what it was. It's one of those situations where, like, you know it's bad, you know it's not going to end well, but damn, does it just kind of feel a little bit good in my hand, and I like the look of it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a really big mistake, and I'm going to buy it. Now, I ended up buying this. I'm like, you know what? Even if it doesn't work, it's a pistol that looks cool to me. Where do we begin with this custom TLE RL2? With this particular model, you are getting front strap serrations here. That's pretty nice. You also have a rail, Picatinny rail on the frame of the pistol, so it is a railed 1911. That is typical for the RL model. And the other reason why I was so drawn to it was the factory threaded barrel. And then you also have suppressor height sights. I'm going to try to review this pistol in the most factual and unbiased way humanly possible to give you guys some information, because quite frankly, I did not find any videos online at all or any information anywhere of this particular model of Kimber with the threaded barrel. This pistol typically retails at around $1,300 to $1,400 depending on where it is. Sometimes it might be even cheaper at $1,100 or $1,200. Again, it just depends on where you are getting it. I had 350 rounds to bring with me to the range for this very first range day on this Kimber pistol, and we only made it through 300. I just didn't feel like putting the extra 50 rounds through it. I just felt like I had all the information I needed to have from that first 300 rounds. I did not clean this pistol. You guys can see it's still pretty dirty up there from 300 rounds. I did clean it prior to shooting it, and I made sure it was well lubricated in all the proper spots. The reason why I didn't clean this gun, I usually clean the guns after the range day to get them out on tabletop, is because I took this out of my bag and I just looked at it and I said, you know what, everyone needs to see kind of the quality of this finish from Kimber, because that's something that is really harped on quite a bit. It was a very hot and humid range day, and we had this thing out at the range just baking in the sun, sweating hands all over it all day long. And in a matter of less than 24 hours, this was on top of my range bag in an area where I forgot to have a dehumidifier running. It is an area that needs to have one running. It just wasn't. That's my mistake. But I had many other guns laying right next to it, like this Ruger here, or a new Bergera, spoiler, that you guys are going to be seeing on the channel soon. And none of those guns had this issue. And the issue was surface rust. So it's going to be a little bit tough to show you guys here on camera. I'm going to try to do the best that I can. But there is surface rust starting here. There is surface rust, and again, it's going to be hard to see and pick up, but it's all right here on the back strap. So we got surface rust there. We have surface rust, once again, starting back here. You can see that a little bit more. And in person, you can see it just starting all over the place. And that's a huge complaint with the Kimber finish. And we noticed at the range that you guys can see here, even on the bottom, that shiny metal coming through, that's the bluing or whatever it is that they finish this with already coming off after 300 rounds, barely 300 rounds. I did not set this on the rocks or anything like that. You could see over the beaver tail there, bluing already wearing to that bare metal finish. The safety's already wearing. These are parts that on any of my other 1911s don't show wear even close to 1,000 rounds, and this is at 300 and we're already getting that wear and we're already getting surface rust. Kimber states somewhere out there that these guns have a 500 round break-in period. I made sure to read the manual and kind of skim through it the best that I could, and I could not find anywhere in that manual any more remarks about a 500 round break-in period. So I don't know if that's something that Kimber changed or it's outdated information, but that's always what I was told. I'm not a fan of break-in periods, especially when it comes to 1911s, because that is a clear indication a lot of the time to me that the gun is not properly finished from the factory. You may or may not experience issues, and it's a really great way to hide QC problems. When it comes to this break-in period, if you will, I had about 7 malfunctions, and a lot of those malfunctions came down to the slide release / stop right here. It's not getting enough tension. So you guys will see a lot of the time during shooting that the slide would stop and I would look up at the gun and it would be right about there. I mean, just barely touching that. And if we push the slide release here, it's really, really loose on that detent. Now, again, I think what was going on is either it could have definitely been user error. I was holding it about like this, and I don't know, maybe sometimes my thumb just rubbed against that slide release enough to get it up there. I put gloves on to see if I could replicate the problem or make it worse, and it was the exact same. I think what was going on is that there's so little spring tension on that slide release that recoil was sending that just ever so slightly up, and it was catching in the slide. Not the end of the world. I can fix that. That's, you know, it's not a problem that is going to be a deal breaker. And then I did have some failure to feeds, and I think the failures to feed, because they did happen with all magazines that I had, and mind you, I did not use the factory Kimber magazine once in this gun. These magazines are really not that great. I prefer Wilson Combat. I ran primarily Wilson Combat magazines, the 10-rounder and the 8-rounders. Malfunctions happened in both of the magazines, so it wasn't a preference of the 10 or the 8. And I also ran Metgar mags, and these magazines have never given me an issue. These are great, affordable 1911 mags. I think what's going on here as far as the failure to feed is just kind of a lot of play in that magazine well. And you guys can hear that there. I mean, this magazine is moving all over the place. And it's kind of funny, like the more I shot the gun throughout the day, the more everything just got very loose. And it's not the end of the world, but I do have a feeling that that may be causing some failure to feed issues. I don't know. It could also just be the gun breaking in. Who knows? And it was just with standard ball ammunition, and it was brass cased ammunition. So it was good stuff, good quality ammo. Never had an issue with that ammo before, so I doubt that was the problem. Out of 300 rounds, again, I had about 7 malfunctions. I have very cheap 1911s in the sub $400 area, and I also have other Springfield 1911s about that same price point. I've yet to ever have a single hiccup with any of my other 1911s. And a side point, again, something that I left so that you guys could see this after the range. You guys may have noticed, if you had a trained eye, that the one grip screw is kind of far out, and that is because during shooting, that's about what the grip screw did, and now the grips are very much loose, so I can move them side to side. I can pick them up there like you can see, and that was progressively getting worse throughout the range day. Once again, something that has never happened on any of my other 1911s, but happened here. When it shot, I feel very much like this gun is undersprung. Now, there's nothing that I can really definitively say about that, but these Kimber pistols, if you read the manual, say that the recoil springs need to be switched out every 1,500 rounds, which just sounds outrageous to me, and that would be an indication that the springs are just maybe not the best that they put in these from the factory. I did feel a noticeably more stout recoil than my other 45 1911s. So I'm going to try a Wolf spring set in this, maybe the extra power spring set, and see if that improves the shootability at all down the road, because I do think that will also help the life of the gun. I just felt that slide just nailing back with a good amount of authority, and if you guys shoot 45 1911s at all, you'll know that generally the recoil is actually pretty soft. They're not hard recoiling guns in 45, and this one definitely was beating my hand up by the end of the day, and that's an indication to me that it's probably having an issue in the recoil spring department. Now, I did not run this gun suppressed at all, and that's as a little bit of an issue there with finding a dead air piston. I just did not have one available, and they are freaking unobtainium anywhere. So I do plan on running this gun suppressed, especially after I get that recoil spring switched out down the road, trying to throw the malfunctions aside, trying to throw the recoil impulse aside. The gun itself, as far as the trigger, as far as the way the gun handles in my hand, especially with the front strap checkering, is excellent. This gun feels great in my hand. The beaver tail could be a little bit more extended for my preference, but it's not bad at all. I don't find myself inadvertently not pressing down the beaver tail enough. I always found myself gripping the gun properly. As far as the 3-dot suppressor height sights, I actually really like those as well. I was able to get those on target no problem, and I like the rail. I like the overall look of the Kimber 1911. That's typically what you see with these guns. The look is phenomenal, but when it comes to the actual reliability and the performance, it just doesn't meet up. Today's Kimber is simply not the same, and when it comes down to QC, it's a bit of a crapshoot with these guns. You either are going to get one that's going to run pretty well, or you're going to get one that's going to be catastrophic, and there's really not a huge way to know which one you're going to get. When it comes to the trigger with this gun, it was really not bad. About a standard 1911 trigger. You got a nice wall there, crisp break, and our reset right about there. A little long, but nothing crazy, and our break again. When it came to rapid fire on this gun, I did notice a significant difference in just how fast I could shoot the gun, and I do think that was because of the recoil impulse. It is a Series 80 1911. What that means, if you guys can see on camera here, it's a little bit tough to showcase, but there's a small plunger safety up here, and that is typically not ideal when it comes to a safety on a 1911. I generally prefer a Series 70. I just do think the triggers feel better. But when we're comparing this next to my Series 70s, I don't know that it's the end of the world. It really doesn't feel that bad. A note on the threaded barrel, and this is not a fault of Kimber, this is a fault of just US thread pitches. This was walking loose every single second, so you may want to put a small O-ring up in here, but this was walking free a lot. Pretty much every other magazine, this was starting to walk free. It does have a full-length guide rod, and as far as this model in particular, the TLE RL2 has been around for quite some time, but this is the first one that I've seen in person with the threaded barrel. And as far as looks, again, it's a good looking gun, and I think with an X300 or something on the bottom, it would look even better. I did do some groups with this gun, and it was very bizarre, and I have a feeling this was on me, but I did think it was most definitely worth noting. I did groups at 5 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, and 40 yards on this gun, and at 5, 10, and 20, my groups were around 2 inches. It almost did not change at all, and I was really kind of blown away. I'm like, man, that's a great shooting 1911 as far as accuracy, and that is by far better than a lot of my other 1911s that are out there at 20 yards. So I was very impressed with that. And then we brought it out to 30 yards, and it was just really interesting because the groups widened up to over a foot at 30 yards, and once again over a foot at 40 yards. Now, I'm accounting this to just shooter error. It must be me and my eyes at those distances with these sights and that target that just wasn't lining up. But I did think it was interesting as far as what might be going on there, because that is a huge difference from a 2-inch group at 20 to over a foot at 30, and I don't know exactly what would be causing that. The conditions were the exact same, ammo was the exact same, there was nothing going on with the barrel that was weird, so I don't know. I thought you guys might find that interesting. Some of the rounds in the back roll did not even land on camera where I could show you, so just kind of take my word for it. They were 4 and 5 round groups depending on how much ammo I had left in the magazine. So I don't know, take that for what you will. Maybe let me know down in the comment section if you guys think I was doing anything funky, or maybe I wasn't doing something right with the gun. As it stands, I would not recommend this gun, and I really would not recommend Kimber as a whole. I really was hoping that it would be different. I was hoping that I would pick up this gun that felt so good in my hand, and all of the stuff that I've seen over the past 7, almost 8 years that always told me to avoid Kimber, I was hoping that that may have changed. And I just don't think it did. Now, am I gonna get rid of this gun? No. For me, this gun is not a gun that I'm gonna be using for self-defense. And quite frankly, I did purchase this gun, but I also traded another gun for it that it just really wasn't the end of the world of me getting rid of it. It's a gun I can always get back, and I actually made a good bit of money on it, so I'm really not out of pocket anything for this gun. Would I ever pay $1,200 for it? No, absolutely not. But because it's not a defensive gun, and because it's a gun that's just going to kind of look nice in my 1911 case, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to make it a bit of a project gun of switching out some springs and just seeing how it goes. The malfunctions that I had in this gun were definitely not catastrophic. It was a failure to feed here or there, but I have seen a lot of people that cannot even get through a magazine. And 7 malfunctions out of 300 was definitely not great, but it's not as terrible as I thought it was going to be. This is kind of the reliability that I expected and that I knew I would get going into this gun, and I knew it was going to be something that I had to just kind of work on a little bit, and I just figured that maybe a lot of you guys out there who are considering Kimber might find this a little bit helpful. One other thing on reliability, I did shoot hollow points through this, and the hollow points were kind of wanting to really get stuck in the chamber a bit. It was a little weird, and it did end up feeding those hollow points for the most part. I think I got like maybe 1 failure to feed. A lot of 1911s don't like hollow points, so I'm really not going to fault it too much there. It's just something worth noting. You want to try these guns out with hollow points. Now stay tuned. Down the road, I'm going to run this gun suppressed. I'm going to run it a little harder, see if those malfunctions just kind of go away over time or get worse. You never really know with these guns, and that's about all she wrote. Guys, if you have any other questions about this 1911 or anything else on the channel, please throw them down below in the comment section, and you guys know I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, check out that description for all the links to support my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.